Yeah.
Recording.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody. Today we got a special guest, a good friend of mine. I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself. But before I do, we're gonna be discussing to raise awareness of driving under the influence. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself.
My name is Officer Reuben Jones, an officer with the California Highway Patrol, the finest law enforcement agency in the universe. That's confirmed because I've talked to aliens and they think that we're the best too.
So
Been on the Highway Patrol about 17 years. I started out in the city of San Jose, which is the city I was born and raised in, San Ho, woo woo. Graduate of Andrew Hill High School, home of the Falcons. And in 2011, I transferred out to the Stockton office, and I've been there ever since.
I actually met Officer Reuben Jones during the high school that and we became good friends from there. So he's actually helped me get in and speak to a lot of the high schools out in the San Joaquin County. So at this time, I want to start discussing to raise awareness of people under the influence. And everybody knows pretty much what happened to me. And so at this point, I want to go ahead and let Officer Reuben Jones go ahead and take over and discuss on raising awareness.
Okay, well, for the CHP, that is one of our number one goals. Um, One of the things that we talk about within the department is the MDR, or the mileage death rate, and that is the deaths per 1 million miles traveled. So our goal is to get that to zero. Um, it's a very lofty goal, and to this point, we haven't gotten that there yet because of inconsiderate, irresponsible drivers. A lot of them that decide that they're going to partake in alcohol or drugs of some kind, and they get behind the wheel, taking their life as well as all of the lives around them in their hands, with no care for anybody else's life, because they're selfish, and they want to get home. So just recently, over the past, I would say, I think it's been 3 years. 3 years ago, um, because of how badly San Joaquin County has performed, we received a very large grant from the Office of Traffic Safety called the Regional Campaign Against Impaired Driving, which was called the Arcade Grant. And they gave us a ton of hours to put extra officers out on the road specifically for DUI saturation patrol to try to affect a change in the numbers of fatalities and injuries as a result of DUI related traffic collisions. Fortunately, that grant helped, and we were able to make a difference and bring the numbers down. It wasn't the numbers that we want, which is zero, but the numbers came down nonetheless. Then last year, we received another grant from the Office of Traffic Safety. This time, not necessarily DUI specific, a DUI specific focus. It was more of a crash focus, which included DUI, where the arcade grant was DUI specific. This one is called the Focused High Crash Reduction, FHCR grant, which essentially mirrors the arcade grant. It's just a focus on just crashes in general. But again, that still encompasses our DUIs. Um, Throughout my 17-year career, I've seen a litany of different types of crashes. I've seen the worst of the worst. And there's nothing worse than having to tell a family member that their loved one is never coming home again. There's nothing worse than that. No,
I know
I'm going to correct myself. There is one thing worse than that, and that is seeing
you're getting a lot of updates stats of the DUI. And here in California, one of the most counties is actually got more arrests, deaths, and accidents and injuries than a whole than some of the other states alone. And San Joaquin County being one of the biggest rates stats.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and we're doing our best to combat those numbers. Um, we're severely understaffed right now, but fortunately, the government, the governor, the commissioner of the Highway Patrol have sort of put their money where their mouth is, literally and figuratively, and they have committed millions of dollars to try to hire 1,000 new CHP officers over the next couple of years. So if anybody who's watching your broadcast is interested in a career in law enforcement and you want to get with the best of the best with some good pay, you go to jointhechp1000.com and join us. So we're trying to get more options out there because at this point we're so understaffed it's hard to catch those drivers before they crash. That is always the goal, to catch them before they crash. If they've crashed, then essentially we failed. We failed the public, and we got there too late. So we're trying to get new officers out there. We want to get more patrol cars out there. We want to get more eyes out there to get these drivers off the road before they hurt and kill people.
So that link that you just said, I'm gonna get out, talk to you off camera. This way, I can put that up on the description when we post the link.
Okay.
And then as well, I know a couple years ago, KCRA threw me and interviewed me about an incident that happened right there on Highway 5. Unfortunately, he had passed away due to a driver that was driving on the road. And actually know the family's roommate, and she was gonna actually come on and speak about her experience with that. But unfortunately, the case is still so I told her I didn't want to do anything or anybody to come on here, being that it's an open case.
So I remember that incident. It was I-5 in the Lathrop Road, Louise Avenue area. I remember doing an interview. I remember how devastating that crash was. The one thing about these crashes that absolutely pierces me through the heart is every single one of them, 100% of them are preventable. They're preventable. And so it was a young family, and they lost two babies in that car. They went head on into a tree off the shoulder. Another message for the parents is one of them wasn't in a child safety seat. So in any kind of a crash, that child almost has no chance. And that driver was intoxicated. I believe that was a drug intoxication, if I remember correctly. And they hit that tree, and the baby that was not in a car seat never had a chance. Never had a chance.
Yes, that's I know. Like for example, we were doing a high school, high school, and there was a lady that went before me and spoke, and her story alone was so powerful. In her case, she was a victim of her own crime, pretty much. And it was just that story alone was just, and just unfortunately, she decided to get behind the wheel and ended up running over her own father, which reminds me of another story. I get a lot of updates. This happened in Merced County. This lady, she was driving under the influence, and she just happened to, and I really hate to put it this way, but just really no other way to put it, but she happened to kill her own daughter because she was under the influence. And in my case, she said like, how uh, an infant died because they weren't in a car seat or in a seatbelt. And in my case, I know I was told, I knew one of the firefighters, when I speaking to them later, that if I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, the way I was smashing the pickup truck, my upper part of my body would have flown out the window, as the bottom half of my body would have stayed inside the truck, and that would have been devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's crazy to think of so many of the things that we've seen that things could be worse. You know, over the 17 years that I've served on this department, one of the things I also teach a Start Smart class, which is a program for our new drivers, 15 to 19-year-old drivers, um, who are just getting started. And so they come in, and it's a 2-hour class, sort of about defensive driving and different types of tips and tricks to get them started off on the right foot. That's why it's called Start Smart. Um, and one of the things that I tell them at the beginning of the class, and one of the reasons I do this class, one of the reasons I do every 15 minutes, one of the reasons I'm on this Zoom or live stream with you, is I've seen so many dead bodies in my career, and those images are burned in my head, and I see them every day. I can't get them out. I don't want to see any more. So if talking to you means we save a life, if doing every 15 minutes means we save a life, if I do Start Smart, it means we save a life, it's all worth it. Uh, all of this is for prevention, to not have anybody go through what you've gone through, what families are going through with loss. I mean, your day-to-day life was turned upside down in a matter of seconds. And there are things, you and I talked, you're still recovering from this crash that happened years ago.
Yeah.
It took a while for your family to recover over
Yeah.
a selfish decision.
Multiple surgeries to overcome as well.
Yeah. And there's so many things that people don't think about when it comes to a DUI collision and the effects that it have. And you remember me saying something like this at the every 15 minutes. It's for those people that are out there, imagine that pond that is as calm as can be, and you walk up next to it and it's beautiful, and the sun is glimmering off that pond, and you take a rock and you throw it out to the middle of the pond, and you hear kerplunk as the water hits. I'm sorry, as the rock hits the water. And the analogy I use is that rock hitting the water is that DUI crash. It's that boom. It's that crunching of the metal. And then what ends up happening right around where the rock hits the water, is we get that circle, that ripple, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then soon another one forms, and it gets bigger and bigger. And then another one forms, and it gets bigger and bigger. And these ripple effects are far reaching and long lasting. People don't understand the effects that these DUI crashes have. Okay, so we know that when somebody is killed, they're gone. We know that effect. But what does it do to the moms and the dads, the sons and the daughters, the aunts and the uncles, the cousins? What does it do to our first responders that have to see that? What does it do to our first responders in the ambulance that are feverishly doing CPR, doing everything that they can to bring this person back to life, but they lose them on the way to the hospital? Or our nurses and doctors that are at the hospital, and the paramedics and the EMTs are able to get them there with the heartbeat and still breathing, but now they have to maintain this care at the hospital, but they lose them at the hospital. Do they feel a sense of failure? Do they take that home? And nobody thinks about the first responders. And I'm not saying that our grief is anywhere near the grief of the families, but that ripple effect affects us as well. It affects family members. It affects coworkers. It affects the judge who has to sentence these people. Um, and the DUI court judges see it time and time again. It's almost like a Groundhog Day. They're replaying the same story over again that is completely preventable.
Right. And I know, like, we did a high school right before COVID. It was the last high school we did before COVID, and all the school shut down. And I remember this lady, like in my case, for example, I was times the morning of my accident, and the report came back that from the hospital to the state, patient's not going to survive. But I had died 3 times. I was in a doctor in the hospital that I thought I was going to live because I was in a coma. I had well, this last event before COVID, a lady came up to me, and she was in tears. She tears, and she had told me, "I remember you. I remember you first came in. I was in the emergency surgery room, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. To see our patients after they leave the." So now my doctor can see what I get to do, and I'm so glad you made it because I'm so glad you made it because nobody had no hope, and that's exactly what she said. And she was in tears. So glad that I did survive.
And so when I hear that story, I think that was a good addition to what I just said. So for you, you're in a coma, you're out, you're taking the longest nap that a person can take. But how is your wife doing? How are your kids doing? And they have to walk in and hope and pray. I hope he opens his eyes today. I hope he squeezes my hand today. I hope something is better today. What about the nurses too? You know, I just think about all of that and all of the, again, there's just that ripple effect, the devastation that it has on people you may not even know. This person you're talking to at an every 15 minutes assembly is now affected, is getting that ripple effect from your situation.
And the thing is, when I came out, I was actually listening to the doctor telling my husband I was crying, and the doctor to take me off the machine for and just something that they live to this. It's like to this day, hearing those words, seeing the way I was on that bed, and it's crazy that ripple fest on like the every 15 minutes. So what made me start doing these discussions on my platform is a lady came up to me doing graffiti night, and she had told me my story, is a big reason why she's going to drive you. So that alone, you think, okay, the story's going to pass young kids, and I know we get everything. I don't want to say the high school. I don't want to say even what is it, town, but it was one I know you remember as soon as I mentioned it. This particular high school, very respectful to anybody that was part of it. And the reason why I don't say that is because right afterwards, uh, some of the kids were affected by my story. They came up to me, and I had quite a few of them come up to me, and one teacher, he said that they were apologizing for the way the school was getting. But I had told them, it's not your fault. I'm just glad somebody was listening. And that was the main thing. Out of all that, my story did get the program did get some of the individuals that was involved in the program. So,
Yeah, I remember that program. We did that one this school year. Um, that was a tough one to endure. And for me, as I facilitate and MC the programs, and they want to be disrespectful to me. Maybe they don't like cops or whatever. That doesn't bother me. It's when they're disrespectful to the guest speakers who are there on their own time. Gas is $12 a gallon now. That was a joke. And so they're going there on their own dime to help, to affect change, to give them a message now, so that when they're faced with that decision, as they go off to college or they go to a frat party or they turn 21 and they go to Vegas and they're faced with that decision, will they remember the voice of Manuel Russ? Will they remember the voice of Mirko Kazina? Will they remember the voice of retired Lieutenant Deputy Chris Stevens, and adhere to those words and make the right choice? It's all about choices. If you make the right choice, and one of the things that Chris Stevens says is have a plan. If you're going to go out with your friends, have a plan. Draw straws, do rock, paper, scissors, whatever, and select someone to be that evening's designated driver and take that job serious. The designated driver is not the person who's the least drunk. It's the person who had nothing. And you take turns. And when you draw the short straw, it's your turn to just not drink, have some water, have a soda. But the next time you go out, you fulfilled your responsibility to your group, to the wolf pack. And it'll be someone else's turn. And then you can go and have fun. And we're not saying for those who are over 21, you're allowed to drink. That's your right as an adult. We're not saying don't drink. We're saying after the fact, be responsible with your decisions. Have a plan. If you decide all 5 of the guys are going to drink or girls are going to drink, then line up that Uber or that Lyft, which is so easy and much more inexpensive than taxi cabs. A Lyft and an Uber are literally at your fingertips on your phone. And it's so easy. So just have a plan. Have a plan and follow through and execute that plan. And everybody gets home safe.
And that's why, an incident, you said, it could be prevented. So actually, an accident. It's an incident that could be prevented.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So the word accident, and this is one of the things, again, I talked about in that Start Smart class, and for our teenagers, 15 to 19-year-olds, traffic collisions are literally the #1 killer of teenagers. And so one of the things that I tell them, because some of them get mandated by juvenile court to come do the Start Smart program as a part of their sentencing. And a couple of them will come in and, hey, and I was in an accident, I did this, I did that, I was in an accident. And I tell them, okay, so what'd you do? Oh, I ran a stop sign, I hit a car, or I rear-ended somebody. So I tell them, accident, the term I was in an accident is actually a societal term because there's really no such thing as an accident. I tell them an accident would be you're driving down 99 and a spaceship that's hovering above runs out of gas, and that spaceship plummets to the earth, crashes on 99 right in front of you, and you hit the spaceship. That would be an accident, or a tree falling in front of you. Otherwise, somebody did something wrong and caused a collision or a crash. Somebody's going too fast and they hit somebody. Somebody ran a stop sign and they hit somebody. Somebody ran a red light and they hit somebody. Somebody didn't check over their mirror. They made an unsafe lane change and there was a car there and they're at fault. They pulled out in front of somebody when there wasn't enough room, so they took the right of way. So somebody did something wrong and caused a crash. There's really no such thing as an accident.
Correct. And it's amazing. I was bringing up that high school because, even though, the way it went, but overall to me, it was worth it because, the individuals that had came up to me, they made it worth it to me because I knew somebody was listening. And out of the whole high school, I know we got across through some of the kids. And for me, that was worth it. I'm always told As long as you change one life, as long as you help one person. But to me, it's not about that. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to help as many as people as possible uh, raise awareness of drinking under the influence or just being under the influence, period, and driving.
When we do these every 15-minute programs, one thing that we always say, the battle cry, if you will, is we want to save one life. All of the hours in planning and organizing and filming and the culmination of day two, where we have the mock funeral and we have the speakers. If we get one kid to make that decision and we save one life, all of it is worth it. Because I think like this: if the kid goes to a party on graduation night or whenever, when they turn 21, and they make that decision that they're not going to drink, or they make the decision that they did have something to drink and they're going to call Uber, I assume that that person didn't go to the party by themselves. So that decision saved at least one other life. Maybe there's a group of 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So
Right.
that one person that we affected at the Every 15 Minutes program at Escalon or Ripon Christian or Ripon High or whatever school that we're at, that one person that we affect, it multiplies because there was three people in that car. So indirectly we saved 3 lives, 4 lives.
That goes back to the ripple effect.
Yes, yes, in a good way.
Right.
That ripple effect in a good way, where we're affecting change, we're making change, we're affecting the decision making, and that's all it is. It's a decision. And uh, Judge Agbayani talks about a 1.8 second decision. It takes 1.8 seconds to make that decision. Yes, I'm going to start the car and go, or no, I'm not going to do it. Well, what will you decide in that 1.8 seconds? Will you get behind the wheel knowing you've consumed alcohol or whatever you consumed? Will you make that 1.8 second decision to get into the car with somebody you know has been drinking all night or smoking weed all night or whatever they were consuming? Will you make that 1.8 decision and say, no, I'm not going to do it? That 1.8 decision might cost you your life.
Right. Yeah, it's just ironically because I was always the designated driver, and just it's unfortunately that I have to. Honestly, I feel like I just happen to be at the right place at the wrong time. And the reason why I look at it is because if I wasn't at the right place, if I wasn't in this individual way, the person behind me might have been dead. So and maybe there would not have been such a positive move moving forward to help raise to others about drinking under the about driving under the influence. So I was,
Yeah,
being at the right place at the wrong time.
yeah. Awareness is key, and it boggles my mind that with all of the education and the awareness that we try to provide in the billboards and the commercials and the public service announcements that are given, we still have this problem. We'll still lose several dozen people this weekend in California because it's Friday night. So somebody somewhere tonight is planning to go to the bar, to the dance club, to a barbecue, and the plan is to have a few drinks. And somebody tonight, unfortunately, is going to make a wrong decision. That 1.8 second decision incorrectly. But thankfully, some people will make the right decision. But it's that awareness that you and I will continue, as long as we have breath in our body, to continue to fight to save one more life, one more, one
Right.
more, one more.
Like my daughter, she graduated from make sure I pronounce it uh, culinary school, and there was culinary school, the medical, all in one graduation, medical, culinary school, well as criminal justice, and there's a couple of people. So it's a big event downtown, and there's gonna be a lot of graduates, pretty much partying tonight. So hopefully there is no incident in San Francisco due to this, but like that's why we're trying to raise awareness and open people's eyes to be more precaution, more what's the word I'm thinking about, more responsible of your decision.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, again, we're repeating ourselves, but it's such a simple concept. It's all about decision making. It's all about good choices.
Right.
It's all about having a plan. And again, hopefully, yeah, wherever this celebration is taking place, hopefully all of those kids make it to home to their destination without a DUI driver colliding into them. I'm hoping whatever celebration they have, they're safe and they're making good choices. Um, that's all we can hope for. We got to put the message out there and hope people accept it.
Right. So with that said, I want to thank you. I appreciate you coming on, and this is something I'm very passionate about. But with that said, is there anything you want to set out to anybody?
Yes, absolutely. When we talk about awareness, it's really easy to go, don't drink and drive. And so here's another thing that I talk to the kids in the Start Smart class. Some things that maybe people don't think about. You know, um, for you were in a bad crash, and maybe you're prescribed some pain medication, or somebody has an injury at work and they've got a shoulder injury, so now they're prescribed some narco or Vicodin. Well, it's not just alcohol. It's anything that you put in your body, anything that you consume in any way, whether you inhale it, inject it, ingest it, any way that you get this in your body, anything that you put in your body that negatively affects the way you would safely operate a motor vehicle, you're a danger to the public and subject to a DUI arrest. And so we know about alcohol. We know about marijuana, which was recently legalized. Cannot smoke marijuana and get behind the wheel of a vehicle. We know some people sometimes don't think about those prescription medications, those pain medications. And maybe they take one and they realize, I need to go run to Walgreens to get an ice pack or whatever the case may be. Well, once you've taken that pain medication, you can't drive anymore. And here's something that people a lot of times don't think about and don't realize. Over the counter medication can sometimes be just have the same negative effects. NyQuil is 10% alcohol. Sometimes people don't realize that. The alcohol in there is what's put in there to help you sleep so that you can battle this flu that you have. Because when we sleep, that's what our body needs the most is rest. And so alcohol is is put into different types of medication. Like for me, Benadryl knocks me out, and I know that. When I was in San Jose, there was this little trend called robo-tripping that the kids were doing, and that was getting drunk off of Robitussin. And I'll ask the kids in my Start Smart class, why do you think Robitussin? It's disgusting. I hate cough medicine. The reason for that is it was accessible. You don't have to be 21 to go buy Robitussin, to go buy NyQuil, Benadryl, whatever the over-the-counter medication. So just be mindful, be careful of what you put in your body because it can negatively affect the way you drive. And if it does, you can hurt or kill somebody and or you can be arrested for DUI. So that's the last thing I want to say about that. I do have one other thing because I also, not only do I partner with you, which I love that partnership, I also partner with MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. August 27th is Saturation Saturday. And for the last two Saturation Saturdays, I've gone live on Facebook on our CHP page, CHP Stockton, and we've driven around to where DUI arrests are being made. And we don't really show the arrest. We can't really show the person who's being placed in custody. But we're on scene, and we're seeing the flashing lights, and we're seeing the car, and we drive around and kind of chase the scanner, if you will. And we put out some information that night on how many arrests were made, and we try to go on scene to when a DUI arrest is being made. So tune in to the Facebook Live CHP Stockton August 27th. will be Saturation Saturday. We're going to have, excuse me, a bunch more officers out on the road for that weekend because that's a big push for MAD for that weekend. So that's all I got. I appreciate you having me on. This was great. It was like just talking to an old friend.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you came on. I thank you for coming on. So,
Anytime.
with that said, I want to bring up one more situation. Maybe we can, clarify this. Uh, I had a friend of mine that this is years ago, going back, I want to say a good 15 years ago. He was at a stoplight and he only had, I want to say, he said anyways, about 5 years, and he got hit by out of the, but being the fact that he was on the limit, he got charged because they said that he wasn't on the road, period. So even though it wasn't his fault, he got charged for other damages and everything.
So that is a scenario that I've had in my career several times. Um, by and large, when we have a DUI crash, the DUI driver 80-90% of the time is the person that's at fault for the crash because their ability to multitask, which is almost the definition of driving, is multitasking. Your ability to multitask when you have consumed alcohol and or drugs is diminished. Your depth perception is off. Your ability to measure time and distance is off. Um, so that's why, by and large, they're the at-fault person in a crash. But there have been incidents where they were not at fault. They were rear-ended or they were broadsided. But the fact that they were in the vehicle driving, even though they're not at fault for the crash, doesn't absolve them of the responsibility of being the fact that they were DUI at the time of the crash, regardless of the fact that they were not the at-fault party. They're still, I don't want to say guilty because you're innocent until proven guilty, but they're still charged with being under the influence. So yeah, that has happened. It does happen.
Well, I like to thank you for coming on, and so I'll speak with you more this way we can, post those descriptions. So, with that said, remember everybody, tell your loved ones you know them in your house because you're not guaranteed to make it home. Be a blessing, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, good seeing you, brother. We got to do this again.
All right, you too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Stop it.